All right, hi everyone, and welcome to this week's product training with Blue Triangle. For part 3 in our holiday readiness series, we're going to focus on availability monitoring. Of course, that means we'll be dealing with synthetics, and in this session, we're going to talk about sort of best practices for dashboarding, how to configure alerts for these synthetic monitors, and we're also going to cover some good troubleshooting steps as well. So my name is Mark, and I'm the support manager here at Blue Triangle, and I do these trainings each week about web performance, analytics, and ultimately how to solve problems using Blue Triangle. So let's go ahead and get started. So for the agenda today, we're going to talk about kind of 3 different things: the dashboard, we're going to talk about alerts, and we're going to kind of walk through some troubleshooting steps. With the dashboards, there's really 2 I want to point out for you. That's the synthetic site health and the synthetic performance overview. Both have their own advantages and unique capabilities, but if you're only going to use one dashboard, either one would do fine. The next thing is you can configure alerts inside of your synthetic monitor configuration, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in a minute. And finally, we'll walk through a couple of troubleshooting steps. There's a couple of ways to approach troubleshooting. One would be from an alert email, for example. Another would be if you see something going on in the dashboard. And as we go through today, I'm going to probably be pointing out a few kind of tips and tricks as we get into these dashboards, especially on how to drill in for more detail on a particular issue. We'll save a few minutes toward the end for Q&A. Also, one more thing before we get into Blue Triangle. Today we're not going to talk specifically about how to configure and set up synthetic monitors. If you would like any more information about that, we've done some great trainings in the past, and we have a couple of short help videos on how to do these things. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and just assume we've all created these synthetic monitors, and we're just concerned with monitoring for the holidays now. All right, so here we are in the dashboard. This is the synthetic site health dashboard. I have us looking at some demo data right now, and I'm going to just kind of walk through this dashboard with you guys. So up in the top left, we have some high-level metrics. Of course, we get our availability, performance, and some information about number of resources on the page. What's the size of the images on the page usually? Now scrolling down a little bit, we have our site availability graph over time. This gives you an idea of when are the errors and what kind of errors are they. And then, of course, what's great is the screenshot and these scatter plots. So right now I have a synthetic monitor set up that's going to be failing consistently, which is why our availability number doesn't look great. But I just wanted to demo this to you to show kind of what it looks like when there's errors showing up and how to drill into those. So in this scatter plot over here, these are all synthetic tests. And over to the right, it's already automatically selected the latest measurement for us, and this is all of the steps in the latest synthetic test. So these are all the tests, and this is, for example, if we click this is the all of the steps for the latest test. And as you click these scatterplot dots, this is going to update the screenshot window above. Another cool thing about the screenshot is you're able to kind of cycle through the different steps in a multi-page script. Just super easy here. It looks like we had an issue on the view cart page. Well, we should see that error point in the scatter plot here to the right. We may have the screenshot, but not the rest of the data yet. In any case, if you click one of these dots, you're able to drill in further. Okay, so if you click one of these dots and scroll down a little bit, you get the URL hit and the response code, and you can actually see the waterfall of all of the resources loading for this particular page. Now, another thing that's really cool is there's also a film strip for this page load, as well as a HAR file and a test event log. The test event log is great for multi-step scripts. It tells you exactly what's going on, what commands are running, and what commands the script is failing on. And when you click on one of these dots over here, and you drill in, this pauses the dashboard auto refresh. So to go back and continue the auto refresh, you can just click one of these buttons here, or just go back up to the very top and hit that little orange play button. All right, and one last thing about this dashboard, if you open up the filter options, you're able to do a few different things here. You can configure whether you display the screenshot for the latest error or the latest measurement. You can also group the tests. You can either group them by page or step name, monitor name, or the script name. You can also just filter this down to maybe just this one script, or for example, just the home page or something like that. And you can also filter on a specific synthetic agent location as well. All right, so that is the synthetic site health dashboard. It's great for kind of an overview of availability and kind of a live view of your site, as well as easy access to drill down functionality right here on the page. So the next dashboard I'm going to show you is the synthetic performance overview. And really, this widget here in the top left, the errors tracking and performance, this is probably where your eyes are going to be the majority of the time. There are some other cool widgets, and I can point those out quickly. So, for example, the performance by geography is really just a heat map of performance by all of our synthetic agent locations. You can change this displayed metric here to any of these options. If you want to go back, you can just click there. Here, this lists all of the synthetic pages and their respective performance metrics. And there's a breakdown here of all of your synthetic by country and location and browser. You can also change the performance metric here to you can kind of toggle on and off these legend items. All right, but I wanted to focus on this errors tracking and performance widget. So what we're looking at here is each of your synthetic monitors alongside a red, amber, green bar showing the status of these synthetic monitors. And as you can see, you can scroll your mouse over the top of these to get the performance, as well as if it is red and erroring, what is the response code. Over to the left, obviously, is the synthetic monitor. This, you can drill into the performance detail page with an easy click of the button. This gear takes you to the configuration for this monitor, and this button here allows you to run a manual instant test. All right, a couple more cool things about this dashboard in terms of configuration. If you open up this little settings menu, there's a few options you can toggle on and off. You can show the metric averages over to the right. You can turn that on and off. You can also turn on and off the way this is bubbling up the monitors in error state. So you can disable that just to see it naturally like that. You can also configure, if you have a lot of these monitors, you can shorten the height or you can make them bigger, and the space between graphs as well. And of course, you can change the displayed metric to any of the available options here. All right, so that's kind of the configuration and functionality. And one last thing, which may be the most important thing, is if you're hovering over this bar, you can actually click to drill in. So let's say you see an error pops up. If you click this page, it drills into this particular measurement and the surrounding time period. So it's this synthetic test over the past 35 minutes or so. And here, this is our synthetic test results page. And if you, for example, if we open up one of these errors, we're able to see each of the steps in the script. And if you click this little waterfall icon, you're able to see even more of a breakdown. You can see the individual waterfall for the failing step, as well as a HAR file. And if there's a screenshot or a film strip available, you can click on that. As well as the console log. And finally, like I mentioned, the test event log is another really useful tool. Whenever there's an error, if you just jump to the end, you can usually figure out what was failing pretty quick. So it looks like the last command here was the wait for text present, and we were looking for this text to be present. And ultimately, after enough time, we determined that the pattern was not there, and so we ended up failing this script. And it looks like our add to cart button did not actually add anything to the cart. So that's kind of a quick breakdown of kind of the drill down from the dashboard all the way into the individual test results and really investigating an issue. All right, so let's talk about how to configure the alerts. So if I open up the settings for one of these synthetic monitors and I scroll down to the error tracking and configuration section, there's a few options that I'm presented with, and I'm going to just walk you guys through each of these. So the multi-step options, this here allows you to choose which steps you'd like to alert on for this synthetic monitor. It's typical to leave that blank to alert on everything. The timing window rolling here, this is just the evaluation window or the look back period that the alerts are going to evaluate the data for. This is usually good to set at the frequency, provided you have a number of locations. But I usually like to extend it out a few more minutes. So we're running this monitor right now at a frequency of 5 minutes from 5 locations in the US. So there's obviously going to be plenty of measurements within the last 15 minutes. Over to the right, we can configure whether we want to alert based on a percentage of measurements that are successful or the number of runs that have failed. Here we're able to set the minimum number of node locations required to trigger the alert. For example, if you want to make sure you're not getting any false negatives or false positives, you can set that to 2 or 3 locations. And what that's going to do is require at least 2 locations to have an error. This is the total number of errors here. So what this says in English is over the last 15 minutes, there must be at least 2 locations and at least 1 error. And over to the right, there's a checkbox for defining whether these need to be consecutive errors or not. So this is really the meat and potatoes of the error state tracking, and that also controls the coloring of this dashboard on the synthetic performance overview. Now, obviously, in order to get these alerts, you'll have to go in and put in your email address, or if you have a notification group, you can drop that in there. With our notification groups, you can add PagerDuty integration. You can add Slack, SMS numbers, really a lot of different ways to get alerted there. One more thing, you can also enable reminders and configure how often you want to get those reminders of active alerts. So what does an alert look like? I'm going to pull up one of these right now and we'll look at it together. So here's an alert for our demo site checkout path. This is a critical alert for our test site 5. And what we're saying here is we had one error which reached the error threshold settings, and you can see the configured settings here at the time of the alert. And this alert is based on the last 15 minutes, as you can see here, and within that time window there were 3 measurements total. So what you're going to see is a table of all of the errors. So what we have here is a failure on the second step that was add to cart. We get the response code as well as the command failure message, the location where it was from, and the target, which was ultimately the text we were waiting for. So there's more configuration details down here, but really I think the most important part of this email is, aside from this table which lists the errors, is this link here. Click here to see the measurements within this time window. So if you click that, you're able to drill into the synthetic test results for that span of 15 minutes. So with one click, you're able to drill right into the portal. Zoom in a little bit here. So with one click, you're able to drill into the portal and see exactly what was going on during that alerting evaluation window. So here we see our 2 passing tests, and our passing steps, and the failure step here. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was troubleshooting, and we've kind of already taken the first steps. As I mentioned before, there's kind of a couple of different starting places. Maybe we get an alert, or maybe we're watching a dashboard and we see some red start to appear. What do we do after that? So obviously with the alert, we have that link that takes us right into the test results. And here, of course, we're able to drill into this error and look at the screenshot, the HAR file, console, and obviously the test event log, and look through this information to determine if any of this explains the root issue on the site. Now, if we're on the dashboard and we do see red appear, we're also able to click through and drill right into our synthetic test results page. So as an example here, let's imagine the demo site checkout path just started turning red. If we click to drill in, what we're going to see here is our script made it through a couple of steps, but then failed on the add to cart step. So what we're going to do is drill into this by clicking this waterfall icon, and that's going to load some details related to this error. So we'll have our HAR file, screenshot. Sometimes the screenshot may not be available, but we can always check the test event log. And in the test event log, like I mentioned before, if we scroll toward the end, we can see this wait for text present command is not available on the site. So let's open up another one of these failures and see if looks like we have a few different error codes. Let's try this one here. So here we have a screenshot, and it looks like our add to cart button is extremely slow. If we open up the waterfall, another thing you can do is drill into the steps right before the error to see, what was happening, what set the stage for this step to fail. And here we can see a super slow response time from this website, our demo.bluetriangle.com. So this is the issue right here, is the site is really slow and the add to cart button failed to complete. So you could take this to the DevOps guys or the dev team and say something must be wrong on the back end, and they should be able to take it from there, checking query logs and things of that nature. And another thing is, if we're over here on the synthetic site health page, we would have been able to see this error as soon as it happened in this screenshot window here as well. You can also click here on this image, which is nice, and here it says no products in the cart. And this is our add to cart button, and after clicking the add to cart button, we should be able to see something in the cart, obviously. So something's certainly wrong here, and it's got to be on the back end after what we found in the har file. All right, so hopefully that's been a helpful exercise for everyone. Troubleshooting is generally feels like a different experience every time you do it, but the tools are available for you in Blue Triangle, which is great. So I'm going to pause now and check the chat and the questions, and we'll see if there's anything I can help answer for you guys. All right, so I see we have one question, and I'll go ahead and get started with that. Can you customize the synthetic performance overview? I'd be interested to keep the error tracking and performance widget, but replace some of the others. Yeah, that's a great question. Let me open it back up and kind of walk through it. Let's see here. So one of the things you can do is you can customize this dashboard by just hiding the widgets you don't want. You can expand the ones you like. And like I mentioned before, for example, with this widget, you'd be able to make the graphs a little bigger. And when you do that, when you hide the widgets, they go into this side panel over here, and you can hide that panel, or you can ultimately reset the dashboard to the default. Another thing you can do is if you go into a custom dashboard, example, just make a dashboard quickly to show you this. So one thing you can do, if you have a totally custom dashboard, you can add the synthetic error tracking and performance widget as a standalone widget. It's not tied to the synthetic performance overview. So if you run through this little wizard, you can add that widget here as well, and then add any of the other widgets you like alongside it. All right, so it looks like that's all we have for you today, everyone. Thanks so much for your time. And if you do have any more questions, we're always happy to speak with you offline. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. You can reach us at any of the emails listed here. Of course, support is support@bluetriangle.com. And you can also submit a request or a question in our help center at help.bluetriangle.com. All right, guys, that's all we have for you today. Thanks again for your time, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.